我是菠萝，是一名癌症科研工作者和科普作家。听到有机会采访Lee的教授，我非常的兴奋。
Every day I do 150 push-ups.
他在我们专业领域非常的有名，是个不折不扣的 rock star。他是一名优秀的科学家，很罕见的美国4院院士。他是一名探索者，是17家生物技术公司的创始人，发明了蛋白测序仪、DNA 测序仪、DNA 合成仪等等。他是系统生物学的重要奠基人，创造性的把数学、物理学、化学引进了生物学，一次又一次地颠覆着生物医学研究的方向。今年他已经85岁了，又热情饱满地想通过人类表型组计划再次掀起一场革命，一场用他的话来说医学史上最大的革命。对于这个传说中的名字，我有很多的好奇。他85岁了，但听说生物年龄却只有70岁，这是怎么做到的？如果人人都能活到120岁，我们的社会会变成什么样子？我们能战胜癌症吗？普通人能负担得起？他号称要颠覆当代的医学，我们的医学到底出了什么问题？他畅想的医学的未来又是什么样的？最重要的，他已经那么有名有钱，为什么还在努力工作？不找个舒服的地方躺着享受人生呢？All right, Dr. Hood, very nice meeting you.
It's a pleasure to meet you.
All right, so let's start with something simple. How many times have you been to China?
Probably, I'd say 10 plus. The first was 1986. I came over for a cancer meeting, but we got to go to many different places in China, and it revealed the size and complexity of China in a delightful way.
Right.
And has it ever changed since that time?
Right, 1986. Yeah. Okay, I was 3 years old.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest difference between like then and right now in China when you come here? One biggest difference.
I think one of the biggest differences was all the construction was covered by bamboo sheets and things like this, and now it's all modern with cranes and all the other kinds of things. But what hasn't changed are the enormous population presences on the major thoroughfares, and you can go out late at night and find many, many people. Delightful aspects of Shanghai and Beijing.
Yeah, and you can walk here anywhere in the midnight.
And it's safe.
Yeah,
yes.
It's safe, even
and
downtown.
I can't say that about Seattle, where I live now. It's we're very cautious about going out at night.
Sure, I can imagine. Yeah, that's definitely a big plus living in China. So I have some quick fire questions.
Okay.
Just answer whenever your first reaction, right? Impression. All right. What's your favorite food?
Sushi.
Sushi. Okay. How old are you?
85.
How old do you think you are?
Well, my biological age is about 70, so I'm 15 years younger than my chronologic age.
Oh, so there are two ages.
There are two ages. That's correct. One is an age your body says you are. The other is the age, the number of years you've been born.
The birth certificate.
And the really relevant one is your biological age.
Yes.
The lower it is relative to your chronologic age, the better you're aging.
How long do you want to live?
As long as I'm functional. I have a lot to do. I don't see getting it done in 20 years. But on the other hand, I've seen many people become non-functional for the last 5 years of their life, and I don't want to live like that.
Sure. So compared to just the lifespan, you want a health lifespan.
I want my health span and my lifespan to be coincident.
Oh, that's awesome.
And both of them to be into the hundreds.
Sure. Yeah, okay. I think that would be dream,
ideal,
right, for everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. What's the craziest thing you have ever done in your life?
I think from a general point of view, climbing El Cap, a 3,000-foot cliff straight up. In my younger years when I was a rock climber, I did it with another colleague, and 22 hours of continuous climbing, which is extremely difficult climbing. So that's the pinnacle of at least my exercise accomplishments.
Yeah. Ever thought about quitting in the middle of that?
Never.
Never?
Oh, it would have been a disaster to go down. Going up was the only choice you really had.
So sometimes it may be easier, just one way you can only
to
go
keep
up,
going.
Keep
Yep.
going.
Yep.
But you can
Yep.
always achieve.
But I've always had that attitude toward everything in life. I'm very stubborn, And I have enormous determined optimism about getting things done.
Wow. Okay. Do you think stress causes cancer?
I think stress is a contributor to virtually every chronic disease there is. I think it's one of the worst aspects of modern life. And I think we have to learn how to deal with stress far better than we can right now.
Yeah, because right now even the kids get lots of stress.
I mean, the kids in China must have enormous stress when they take their exam that determines what their future is going to be, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think stress is really a malignant aspect of contemporary life.
Yeah.
And that's why determined optimism is really important. I think you have to learn to let all the criticism, all the negativism go and say, here's a forward path that really looks good, and I'm going to think about that.
If there's a free ticket, do you want to go to space or Mars?
If they get the shielding properly so that the radiation exposure isn't going to cause cancer and other kinds of things, I'd love to go to places like that, yeah.
So compared to go to Mars, you actually care. You want to be more healthier and more functional.
I want to be functional right up to the end of my life. I mean, one of the really interesting things about people that live to be 100 is when they die, most of them die from complete systems failure. Mm-hmm. So they die very rapidly. They're not dying over a period of 5 years or so. And so I see the job of the medicine I'm really pushing is to get us all functional and excited into our hundreds, and thereafter you're on your own.
Yeah, I remember there's a plot, right? It's x-axis is age, and the y-axis is the quality of life, right? So you want the quality of life to be high, and boom.
Well, if
over
anything,
100.
I'd like to see it going up, because what allows it to go up is wisdom. I think the integrated knowledge that you gather over your lifetime gives you a really interesting perspective for thinking about problems far beyond just the scientific dimension of the problem.
Yeah, cool. I agree. Okay, I think that's quick fire questions. Something that I'm most interested in and what you are trying to push. So always said we are talking about the P4 medicine, right? And then you want to combine your passion in biology and in engineering and big data, all those kind of things. And basically the P4 medicine is a paradigm shift, I would say, compared to the current medicine, right? Mm-hmm. What's wrong with the medicine system or the healthcare system right now?
I think the major flaw in the current healthcare system is it's focused only on disease. And even worse, it's focused only on disease generally after diagnosis. And what that means for most chronic diseases is they're at an irreversible stage where true you can get drugs, but most of those drugs treat symptoms.
Yes.
They don't treat root causes and so forth.
Sure.
And the key is to be able to predict very early you're going to get the disease and reverse it at the early stage while you can. But what I would say is fundamentally what's wrong with medicine is as long as it's focused almost entirely on diagnosed disease, it's financially unstable because we'll never be able to conquer those diseases. We can pour gazillions of dollars into beautiful cancer drugs, and those cancer drugs, for the most part, are very good at going after symptoms, little aspects of it. But by the time you get diagnosed with cancer, there are many systems that are wrong, and just dealing with one of them may temporarily give you relief, but it doesn't give you a cure.
Right, you will get a tumor shrinkage. Right, you get a smaller tumor. If the slow-growing ones, maybe you get less symptom, but it's still there.
It comes back.
It comes back.
Yeah.
The recurrence is the resistance is always a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the triumphs, supposedly, of modern medicine are all the beautiful cancer drugs that can give you remissions for 9 months or so.
Right.
But then you're at a position where you're even worse off than before because you've lost one axis of treatment and so forth. So I think the critical thing is prevention.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about cancer first because I'm a cancer biologist. I do cancer education. So what our audience will be most interested is how to treat cancer or how to beat cancer or conquer cancer. So what's your definition, you think, is our human being said we conquer the cancer? What will be it's like?
You know, I think the most optimistic opportunity we have in really starting to cure cancer is immunotherapy.
Right.
Because it has the chance to be global and to be able to mop up very complicated tumors that even those that have spread to many different parts of the body and so forth. There are technical barriers now that relate to how the immune system gets checked by tumors and things like that. But we're learning how to circumvent many of those things. For example, one of the cancers that can be dealt with really effectively by immunotherapy is melanoma.
Yeah.
And I can imagine a time in the future when many cancers will be in that boat. And I think that will be a very exciting time. I think the idea of the cancer drugs, though, that is an endless cycle that is never going to lead to cures. It'll lead to temporary amelioration, but not to cures. There are two really optimistic points, in my view, for the future of cancer therapy. One is immunotherapy and one is early prevention.
Yeah, I think that those two can be combined as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think the best way to treat really early cancers you've diagnosed well before clinical symptoms appear is immunotherapy.
Right.
I think it's going to be a very powerful approach.
Yeah, so there is so much data saying if you treat earlier stage,
it's so much simpler.
So much simpler.
You know, one of the things we did in a large study of 5,000 individuals over 5 years, where we looked every 6 months at the genome and at blood measurements and the gut microbiome and everything, we were able to demonstrate beautifully that 167 out of 5,000 transitioned to chronic disease. And we took one of these that had transitioned to stage 4 pancreatic cancer and looked at bloods prior to the clinical diagnosis and showed almost 4 years before the actual diagnosis, proteins had been elevated in the blood that mapped into major disease-perturbed networks in this disease. And we went on to look at 9 additional transitions to different cancers and showed the same for each. So we know we can do these early diagnoses. The next step is to be able to have a population that's large enough that you can predict them pre-clinical diagnosis, and then you can start the immunotherapies or approaches that will reverse these things before they ever become a disease. And that's going to be the future of chronic disease, I believe.
Yeah, it's funny you said for the pancreatic cancer, you can detect some changes already in the body 4 years in advance. Because people normally say pancreatic cancer is almost inscreenable. Because whenever you know someone got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, most of the time it's terminal stage already, right? Because they say the pancreatic cancer grows so fast. But what's in your view is that it doesn't grow as fast as people may imagine just because we don't have the tools to detect it early.
That is exactly right. And all I'm saying is it's very easily to detect at 4 years if you're making the right measurements on the right proteins.
But do you believe, let's take a pancreatic cancer as an example, or whatever cancer type you are interested in. Do you think there's a universal markers or something for different cancers, or it's going to be so personalized that everybody will have different markers?
I think the answer is both. I think we'll find absolutely general markers for something like stage 4 pancreatic cancer. But I think in each individual, there'll be multiple proteins that'll change, and those other proteins will reflect the uniqueness of that individual's tumor. We're proposing to do a 1 million-person project over 10 years with genome-phenome analysis. There we'll see, hypothetically, 200,000 transitions, and from that we can get all the data for all chronic diseases we need to be able to make precise downstream diagnoses and activate the therapeutic reversal at that early stage. So there's enormous, and as you know, at least in the United States, we spend $4.4 trillion a year on healthcare. 86% of that goes to chronic diseases, and a big chunk of it goes to cancer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unsustainable.
And
right,
suppose in a 15-year period we could eliminate half of the chronic diseases. You're talking about trillions of dollars of saving in healthcare.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm very interested in this 1 million genome phenome project, right? And can you describe what exactly you guys are doing in this project so our audience can get an idea what's the crazy scientists are going
what the crazy
after?
scientists are doing. I'll describe what we did in a company called Aerofail, which is the early precursor to this.
Sure.
And what we did was we recruited 5,000 people, and for each of those people, we analyzed their blood for the whole genome, so we knew the whole genome. And then we analyzed the blood to look at 500 proteins, different ones, and to look at 1,000 different metabolites, and to look at 250 clinical chemistries. We analyzed the gut microbiome to determine its state of diversity and so forth. And then we used a Fitbit, which was exercise and sleep and those kind of things. And we integrated all of these data together, and they led to statistical correlations that could take us to the literature and identify actionable possibilities that, if carried out by the individual it was relevant for, would improve wellness or let them avoid disease. We analyzed about 300 of these actionable possibilities. With the Million Person Project, we think we'll get 10,000 of them.
Wow.
With the Million Person Project, we think we'll be able to have the time to do the reversal of disease and show how much money can be saved. And the other aspect is we were able to use this biological age marker that we mentioned earlier because we had individuals that varied from 21 to 93. And what we were able to show is for all three of the classes of blood analytes, individuals lost control of their ability to tighten the expression of these things. And in proportion to your loss of control, that was your biological age. So if you retained control very late, you aged very well and you had a lower biological age and chronologic age. If you didn't, if you lost worse than most people, you had a biological age higher than your chronologic age. And we went back to the Airfail population and showed that for women, for every year you stayed in this wellness program, you lost 1.5 years of biological age. And for men, 0.8 years. I had a friend who lost 10 years, and I said I was 15 years below my biological age. Whereas we showed for 40 diseases, every one of them had biological ages greater than their chronologic age. When they came back to normal, the biological age came down. So it's a metric for wellness that we use now to follow health in individuals as it goes. So the Million Person Project, then, people would be recruited, and every 6 months we do these blood and we do the whole genome analysis once, but the blood and the gut microbiome every 6 months, digital health measurements almost continuously. And one really important thing we're adding to the Million Person Project is the ability to analyze the brain's cognitive abilities. There's a company that's designed 42 electronic features that measure about 25 cognitive abilities, and these include memory and reaction time and depth of field and all of these kind of things. They have the ability to assess them, and if they're low in an individual, they have activities that can promote them up to the level they should be at. So we can, for brain health, then actively exercise the brain, just like we do for heart health in actively exercising the heart. And I would say one of the major failures of contemporary healthcare is the lack. Have you ever had a doctor say to you, "How's your brain?" They never worry about brain health, and this is going to change dramatically.
Yes, I think maybe they want care, but they just don't know how to
Measure them. Absolutely. No, I'm not being critical. I'm just saying it's one of the enormous deficiencies which we can cure. We can take major steps toward curing tomorrow.
Sure. Yeah. I think what you are doing is fascinating. It's a dream, right?
It's a dream.
Everybody.
And what's exciting about the Million Person Project is it doesn't have to be done just in the United States. For example, we have a major collaborator here at Fudan University who's carrying out phenomics, Felix Lee. And I think it would be terrific if he could do a portion of the million people and we could do a portion of the million people. We have a collaborator in Israel who has a very big phenomic project, if he could do a portion. So we put together, see, what's really important about doing that is the different genomes have different potential for disease.
Sure.
So we want to have as much genome diversity as we can to be able, in our countries, you need to be able to treat Caucasians as well as the Asians and everything, and the Africans. And so, I mean, in a sense, my feeling is health is one of the biggest challenges of contemporary society today. And I'd put it right with global warming and things like that, because it's health that confer our really unique abilities on human beings. Our normal development, education, our job, our ability to be creative and productive, to have a community that continues to expand as one gets old, and to be able to move into your 90s with a health span that equals your lifespan, and to be driven by, which I think is very important, a means of giving back to society all that you've gained from society. And if we can do that with healthcare, I mean, the global idea in individual countries is, look, we'll replace disease orientation with wellness and prevention. The real idea behind data-driven health is every individual in the world should have the opportunity to have this kind of health and the potential it brings for them to extend their creativity and productivity and passion and all of these kinds of things. So that's what I'd like to see, and that's why I think I need to live to be about 110.
You actually,
functionally.
You have a goal, 110. Now I know. Yeah, this is so important for societies like China, where the population rapidly aging. Right? I'm the own, I born in the one-child policy period, and then we are so worried about our parents. Right? When they get old, we are the only child. Now you have me and my wife. We have 2 kids and 4 older parents. Right? How is this going to work? It's will be humongously different if the elders are functional versus just laying on the bed and need help.
Absolutely. I think the other thing is, though, we have to teach children what scientific-driven wellness is all about, and that you have the potential for living to be 100 functionally, but the one major commitment you have to make if you're going to do it is you have to expand your community as you go out to replace all of the friends and family that die. That is a really key part of the aging process is community, because look, we validate ourselves through other people and through our contributions to other people. And you can't live in isolation and not get depressed and all of these other kinds of things. So teaching kids the importance of community, the importance of always bringing new friends into your circle, I think is a critical aspect of the aging process.
Okay, that's awesome. So you take the data-driven, when you say, okay, I have some idea how you can grow to age well and how you can be 100 years old. There are lots of other people talk about this as well. And the whole experiment of doing aging-related things are incredibly hard. I don't know. I used to think you have to run a 40, 50 years old trial to, by the time you say, okay, Dr. Hood indeed age better than other people who didn't participate in your program.
Yeah.
What will be the readout or the end point that you can convince the government or other scientists that, okay, my system works, right? Those biomarkers truly indicate this is a good system.
So let me tell you a little bit about educating and the reason I find it so fascinating.
Sure.
Of all the major functions in a human being, the machinery that govern aging is perhaps the most highly conserved of any. And in a general sense, you can say there are three major mechanisms that regulate the 12 major hallmarks of aging. And what is interesting is you see evidence of these mechanisms in yeast, and they're unchanged all the way up to humans. So you can draw inferences that go to humans. And so experiments in mice and dogs give us deep insights into almost certainly what's going to happen in humans. So a really critical question, we're designing a clinical trial now called HealthSpan, which is to look at the aging process. And an aspect of it is going to be looking at major drugs that may block the aging process effectively. So in the past, the ultimate objective of aging was to see how long it took you to die. We can't do that. But a proxy for that are a whole series of measurements around fragility, because fragility is proportional to the aging process, and you can very linearly follow it in the simple model organisms, and we can do it in humans. So we'll be having all sorts of measure of fragility, and we'll probably start our populations in the 60s and 70s, so we get them up to where the maximum aging process occurs and everything. And then we'll test drugs such as rapamycin and metformin that have the ability in principle to block that whole aging process. So I really do see a time, I think, and those molecules operate on these very high-level regulatory things. So they hit multiple of the hallmarks of aging and so forth. Cell senescence and DNA errors and all of these other kinds of things. So I think the future is very optimistic about aging.
Yeah. So you said you have an algorithm basically, right? To combine all those
all that data together.
And tell you.
And it gives you a global assessment. And what's really cool about the aging process is because one of the things we measure are metabolites, they actually tell us about the biological age of major organs like the immune system, like the liver, like the kidney, the heart, and everything. And you can find your global age may be very low, but your kidney age might be high. And that means you've really got to pay attention to the kidney and get your glomerular rate up and things like that.
So we will have
we'll have specificity. But what these metrics can do for us is for each individual, they can give you clues, whether it's clinical chemistry or proteins or metabolites, they give you clues as to how you can age better.
Okay. Oh, I like to have that map. Tell me
my
biological age of my body and every different piece.
And the organs, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, actually, I had a dinner with a friend who is 35, I believe, very young, right? But he said he take metformin like every day, and he take rapamycin when he feels like it.
My goodness.
He truly believes those drugs will work. I'm like, okay. But he doesn't have the...
From my point of view, I think the evidence for rapamycin is a little better than for metformin. So I take rapamycin, and there you use dosages of once a week. But I take that regularly, and then the metformin he can take more irregularly. Just switch them around.
Disclaimer. This is personal choice. There's no promotion here. But everybody's taking so many different things right now. So, NMN, all
and
those
a lot
kind
of them
things.
are probably fairly worthless in the larger context.
I know.
Are you getting healthy? But it means the supplement business is, a multi-billion-dollar business in both China and the U.S., that's for sure.
Absolutely. That's why people see all those information all the time. That's why I think to have objective read out, right, to say this actually works, that any intervention, right, supplements or your exercise or calorie.
See, you can never change a thing until you can measure it.
Yes.
That's one of the fundamental principles of biology.
Yeah, I think that's very important for scientists. Otherwise, you do something, you feel better, and you think it works. I just don't buy it.
Yeah.